of just dissed it with your face and your expression, like, oh, like my choice was the wrong choice, or like it was a stupid choice for choosing all black. My first thought was, okay, why are you being so dramatic? It's not a big deal. It's just a stroller. Like, and I started to justify myself, like, why would she get so hurt? It doesn't matter. I didn't even say anything. I just made a face. That was it. And it kind of bothered me for a bit. And I told my mom about it. And my mom's like, okay, you could have that perspective of why did she get so offended? It's not a big deal. But then also think about it from another way. Think about it from the way of, wow, she's such a good friend. She actually told you. She values your friendship with you, and she's decided to tell you because she knows that you won't judge her when she expresses herself, and she really cares about you in order to like stand up and say something. And I thought that was very cool. And I thought that was also like a kind of like perspective shift in maturity, because often we go along the course of our life thinking that the way that we think or the way that we see things is perfect and that we don't need any tweaking. But this mission is going to come and teach us that we need a lot of tweaking when it comes to our perspective, because we want to be people that get out of a negative perspective and go into a more positive perspective. So in this book, The Gift, Dr. Eger, she talks a lot about being a victim. And a lot of times we can become victims to our own thoughts and to the thoughts that we just keep thinking again and again. And she invites her patients to step out of victimhood and step into choosing the right thoughts, choosing the right feelings, and then you're not a victim anymore. Because a lot of times without realizing it, we're victims to our negative thoughts, and they make us think that we're perfect and that we're complete and we don't need any more fixing. But the whole message of Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, is wise rabbis teaching us little smart tidbits that will tweak our perspective and will tweak our life, like our outlook. So all of these things, wisdom and strength and wealth and honor, every single year we grow, just automatically, just by being humans. Every single year of our life we grow. But with these four things, I feel like these are the things that if we don't actively make a choice to work on, we can go until old age still having not the right perspective on these four subjects. So let's start with the first one. So I'm going to be looking inside the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ben Zoma says, so our rabbi that's teaching us this is Ben Zoma. He's called Ben Zoma actually because he reached a very scholarly level when he was very young. So he was still called Ben Zoma. He was still attributed to his father. Like Ben Zoma means he is the son of a man named Zoma. And he lived around the time of the Second Temple. And he says, who is wise? Somebody who learns from everyone. And then Ben Zoma supports it with a quote saying that I've gained wisdom from all my teachers, but from others, that's where I gain the most. And who is truly wise? One who learns from every person. That's Ben Zoma's main point. Now, interesting, because we would think that somebody who's wise learns from people who's smarter than him. Especially we live in a culture where we value, one of our highest values is college education. And the whole system of college is that we get a bachelor's and then we get a master's and then we get a PhD. We're always climbing in education and we're learning from people that know more than us. And in life in general, if a wise person is coming to town, a speaker is coming to town, we want to hear them because they're smarter than us. We want to gain from people that are smarter than us, which is a very true perspective, but at the same time, that's not the key to wisdom. Ben Zoma is saying a wise person learns from other people. Why? Because Ben Zoma says that we look at a person the way that God looks at people. God created every single person as an indispensable part to his creation, to his world, to his masterpiece. And therefore, if that person is created and here and exists, that means that that person has something to share with us and share with the people around them. So often there are people that in our minds, not in an outside way, we look down on them and we say, oh, I know more, they know less. But that's not the perspective. That's not the right, true, wise perspective. Benzoma is saying true wisdom is to look at every single person that exists in your surrounding and say, wow, God created this person in order for them to share something with me. And not only with me, but with the world around them. And therefore, there must be something that I can take and something that I can learn from this person. Another perspective that we can have is that often in life, we go about doing things the way that we do it, and we just stick to the way we do it and we don't change. But when we encounter other people, we can learn new ways of doing things. And you might do something different from another person, and it might fit with your personality, and the way they do things fits with their personality. But at the same time, experiencing the way that other people do things is in order for you to refresh your perspective and for you to refresh your way of going about things. And it's very, very good to attribute and to other people and say, I used to do things one way, but now after I met this person, I switched it up a little bit, or I tweaked it this way. There's always something you can learn from everyone, especially because when we're seeing it from a godly perspective, God wants us to learn from other people. God created us to be so diverse and created us to be so different in order for us to just behold the way other people live and say, oh, that's really cool. I want to live like that. And in order for us to keep on growing in our self-growth. Because the whole point of Pirkei Avos is self-growth in a true way. So that's the first one. That's wisdom. Somebody who is wise is somebody who learns from every person. He, number one, sees that every person is an indispensable part to God's creation. And number two, he sees that this person has a new way of doing things, and I can gain something from this. I can learn something from this myself. So that's the first one. Redefining wisdom. And even though, yes, we learn from people that are wiser from us, we also learn from people that are not as wise as us, or we learn from people that are maybe on the same level as us. It's not about knowledge. It's not about information. It's about the way that we see our life. We see our life through the lens of a godly perspective. And that is that every single person has something to contribute to the world, and therefore we have something to gain from realizing that and looking at other people and saying, okay, wow, what can they offer? What can they share? And I want to learn from them. So the next thing that Benzoma says is strength. He says, who's truly strong? One who conquers his evil inclination. And then he supports it with a quote that says that somebody who is slow to anger is truly strong, and somebody who controls his feelings is like somebody who conquers a city. Okay, so Benzoma is saying that true strength is what happens inside, and that is as powerful as conquering a city. So that's kind of interesting because it makes sense, yes. Being strong is somebody who can control himself inside and control his anger. But it's a kind of extreme example. Like, okay, you're strong inside, and that is more powerful than conquering a city. So what does that mean exactly? And power over others is an illusion. The only real power that we have is over ourselves. And when Benzoma is talking about an evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara is often presented as the bad guy that like sits on your shoulder and says to you, don't do this, do that, don't do the good thing, do the wrong thing. But most of us are really good people at heart. All of us are really good people at heart. And we're not going to jump easily and say like, and listen to negative inclinations. What the Yetzer Hara really does is the Yetzer Hara looks into who you are, looks into your weaknesses, and starts you along a path of doing the wrong thing, stemming exactly from the things that you struggle with. So, for example, none of us would really like steal, right? None of us are going to steal in general. But your evil inclination might tell you something like, oh, it's okay to steal online. It's okay to, it's not such a big deal. It's impersonal. Or it's okay to steal this person's idea. They won't know. So the evil inclination will come in ways that seem very like soft and subtle, and then slowly but surely, the evil inclination's goal is to influence the way we see things and think like, oh, we can do the wrong thing and we can get away with it. So Benzoma is saying that somebody who is strong is somebody who squashes his evil inclination and says, no, I'm sorry. I'm not giving into this anymore. I'm not going to be a victim to my evil inclination. And emotionally, this means all the negative qualities that we feel: ego, envy, jealousy. These are negative qualities that a lot of us really truly live with on a daily basis. And before anything, the evil inclination wants to make sure that we're emotionally feeling low and that we're emotionally feeling negative. So in modern terms, an evil inclination is self-doubt. The evil inclination is envy. The evil inclination is ego. It's thinking negatively. It's being jealous. That is what the evil inclination is really, where it's really trying to get you. And if we look at ourselves, sometimes we are living with a lot of irritable qualities and a lot of negative qualities. So how do we vanquish them? How do we get rid of them in order for us to conquer our city? And what does conquer our city mean? It means from getting to point A to point B, to cross the finish line. It means that just like the way that a person who's conquering a city has a goal, has a start and has an end, we can also get past our evil inclinations. We can also get past our negative thoughts and feelings in a way that we are done with them. So in the book, The Gift, she talks about how a lot of times we live with negative feelings and we think about ourselves, oh, we're so bad. I'm still living with this. I'm still living with this sense of ego. I'm still living with this sense of envy. And often we'll say, you know what, I'm going to justify it because of X, Y, and Z. And we justify our negative feelings. And in the book, she talks a lot about how it's okay to acknowledge that I'm feeling jealous. And it's okay to acknowledge that I'm feeling fear or ego or envy. Sit with the feeling and acknowledge it and say, you know what, I'm feeling jealous right now. And this is where it's coming from. This is what's causing it. And I want to move on. And allow yourself, release yourself, and move on. Because as long as you live with this negative feeling, you're really a victim to your evil inclination. And we don't want to be victims, because the opposite of being a victim is being strong. And we don't want to continue to feel all of these negative feelings just because we're just going to justify them and move on and say, you know what, it's okay that I live with this. It's okay that I live with ego. It's okay that I live with envy and because of some reason. No, we want to say I'm a truly strong person. And being a strong person means that I'm going to take a step out of victimhood, and then I can step into my real life. And my real life is a life where I'm not bound by the clutches of negative thoughts or negative feelings. So a really good example of this is sand and pearls. So a pearl is formed out of lots of irritable pieces of sand that get together and just crush along each other inside an oyster, and then it creates a pearl. Our negative feelings, our negative thoughts are in order for us to get to the next step and to become a truly refined person. So when you're dealing with negative feelings like jealousy, anger, ego, whatever it is, our perspective shift can be that, you know what, I am a real pearl. I'm a pearl. And in order to become a pearl, I have to work through these negative qualities. And it's okay that I have them. I'm human, but I can choose not to be a victim to them. And all of these pieces of sand, right? Let's say one piece of sand is anger, one piece of sand is ego. Let them just like fester and let them just express themselves and think about them and say, you know what? I actively am making a choice. I'm going to be the narrator of my life. I'm not going to just allow these emotions to overcome me like a wave. And I'm going to like develop into a pearl. That's where I really want to be. And that is why Benzoma says that true strength is like conquering a city of emotions, because we're getting to the other side. We're working through our emotions, we're working through negativity, but then at the end of the day, we come to the other side stronger and like a pearl. We come to the other side redefined and also just nicer, kinder, better people because we've worked through this, and that makes us truly strong. The next thing that Benzoma says after strength is who is rich? Somebody who is happy with his portion. Like it says, when you work when you work from your hands, you're fortunate that it's going to be good for you. You are fortunate, Benzoma says, means that in this world, we're going to have good fortune by being happy with what we have. And then in the world to come, it's going to be good for us because our whole life, we lived a life where we were happy with what we have. Now, this one's a little bit interesting because naturally we compare ourselves in wealth, right? We say, okay, this person is able to go on an expensive vacation. I can't. This person owns this car. I don't. This person has this job, makes this amount of money. I have this kind of job that makes this amount of money. And it's very easy to compare ourselves in terms of wealth. But Benzoma is saying that real wealth is being like focusing on your portion, focusing on what you have. Now, the problem with comparing yourself to other people's wealth is that even if you rose in wealth, you're still going to be living with this perspective. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people think, oh, if only I got to this level, then I'll be happy. If only I have this level of living, this lifestyle, then I'll be a truly happy person. But honestly, it never ends because there's always going to be people that are more wealthy than you. And you're going to look at them and say, oh, I wish I had more and I wish I had more. So Benzoma is saying that your portion, what you have in life, is what's allotted for you. And not only in a physical way, but also in a spatial way. A deeper perspective of looking at our portion is that every single person not only has a physical, has material assets that were given to him, but every person also has a physical space that they are able to work on and able to affect. So what I mean by this is that your community, your surroundings, the people that you interact with, this is your portion in life. This is your wealth. And when you focus on what you have, then you're able to really be successful in your surroundings versus looking at other people and saying, oh, I wish I had their life. I wish I had their family. I wish I had their circles of influence. I wish I had their wealth. Well, if you're looking at what other people have, then you never have time to really be successful in your life, in your surrounding, in your circle. And you're always focusing on what other people have, but at that time, you cannot truly be successful where you need to be successful. It's almost like, in an example, you're working in an office and you have somebody who is in a cubicle right next to you. And they're working hard, they're plugging in their hours. And the whole time you're looking over the cubicle and you're saying, oh my goodness, look how much they're getting done. But at the same time, you have work that you need to do in your cubicle. The problem is that because your cubicles are so close, it's easy to look into the other person's cubicle and say, oh, they're getting so far, they're advancing so much. But you have things to do. And on a very, very deep level, the Hasidic masters explain that every person has almost like a space of land that they need to work on. And this space of land is where you're born, it's where you go to work, it's where you interact with people. On a very physical and geographic level, every person has an area that they need to work on and be successful in. So an example, very clear example, would be Chabad rabbis. The Chabad rabbi in Aruba, his work and his wealth, where he needs to become successful, is here in Aruba. And then we have, let's say, the Chabad rabbi in Portugal. His area is Portugal. He needs to work on the people in Portugal. Now, in a sense, every single person is like a Chabad rabbi. They have their area that they're living in and their sphere of influence, and they have to say to themselves, okay, where can I affect change? Where can I create a community? Where can I foster relationships and friendships? And that is your wealth. Your wealth is your portion. It's the area, the sphere that is allotted to you, where you could make an influence and where you could be successful. Because it's not only success in a material sense. So our two answers to true wealth is, number one, true wealth is a perspective. No matter how wealthy you get in life, there's always going to be people that are wealthier than you. And therefore, you want to be successful in what you have. And the second example, the deeper perspective, is that we each have an area that we can be successful in. And then the last Mishnah is somebody who is honored. So the Mishnah reads, who is a truly honorable person? Somebody who honors other people. Like it says, those who honor me by honoring my creations, I will bring honor. And those who ridicule me by disrespecting my creations will be shamed. So basically what God is saying is that in this quote, is that when God created each person, he wants every person to honor each other. We want to create a society where we're all connected and we're all connecting to each other in a positive way. Now, what does it mean to honor another person? A lot of times we look at other people and we instantly compare them to ourselves. So we look at somebody who is, for example, very, very academically achieved, somebody who works very hard on like in the academic world, let's say, and we say, oh, wow, they're so accomplished. I only have this, or my education only came to this level, or I only got to learn this much. Or a beautifully dressed woman walks into the room and immediately our reaction will be, oh, I look so frumpy compared to her. She looks so put together. And a lot of times we just let our reactions just come to us, and we just have a reaction that isn't serving us and isn't making a connection with other people. If anything, it's distancing us from other people. And on a spiritual and scientific level, every single person, according to Judaism, has a godly soul and an animal soul. The godly soul is more of an intellectual kind of soul. It's a soul that is wise. It's a soul that sees things from a godly perspective. And then we have an animal soul, which is more of an impulse reaction and more of an inclination, like just a first reaction, and usually not a positive one. And scientifically, we react quicker than we respond. And we have to train ourselves to pause and say, I don't want to react. I want to have an actual response. So going back to our examples before, somebody who is more academically achieved than you, you look at them and say, wow, they put into so much hard work into where they are today. I admire that. And if a beautifully dressed woman walks to the room, it's okay to just say simply, wow, they look so beautiful, and not shift it onto yourself all the time. We tend to shift things on ourselves often. And when you honor somebody, the real way of honoring somebody is just letting them be and letting them shine for what they have. And often we in our minds try to take away the good that people have because maybe it makes us feel better, or maybe it's just a reaction. Somebody who has something positive, we are able to choose to honor them and say, wow, what they have is special, and allow them to shine, allow them to be, allow them to actually express in a safe way, not with you judging them or not with being in a judgmental environment. Allow them to express their specialness. And when that happens, you're on a winning team. When in your mind you think to yourself, oh, that person is so academically accomplished, but you know what, honestly, I'm going to try to find some sort of negative flaw that will bring it down and make me feel better. Then you're an opponent to other people. And you don't want to be an opponent. You want to be on a winning team. You want to be on the same team as your peers, as your colleagues, as the people that you interact with. And being on the winning team means that you just, when somebody walks into the room or when somebody is showing a specialty that they have, you acknowledge that and you say, wow, that is so beautiful what they're offering. And you just let them be. And when you let them be, you have more energy and more time to focus on what makes you special. And vice versa, you want to be somebody who's honored by other people. Now, a lot of times we use the word honor to talk about people that we're giving an honor to that is more than us. And often that could be like an honor in synagogue or honor in a social setting. And if we look deeply in what that is, what we're doing is that we're publicly acknowledging something good that this person brought to the table. That's what honor is. So we do this in a public way, but we also do this in a private way. The way that we think about other people also rubs off, and also like they feel it. And you know who really feels it? Children. Children really feel what their parents are thinking. A lot of times we think, oh, our thoughts are private. They're to ourselves. No one's going to know what I think about another person. But maybe nobody will know, but your children will definitely know. And one of the greatest gifts that you can give to your child is having a positive perspective as a parent and having a perspective that honors other people. Because you would not want your child to come home from school and talk negatively about all the kids in the class. You want to raise a child that looks at the world and looks at other people and sees the goodness in the world and sees the goodness in other people. But where does a child learn that? The child learns that from you. So when you practice this, you are giving your child a gift of just an automatic response that they are going to have in life to other people. And that's really one of the greatest character traits that we can give our children, that we can actively give to a child, is the ability to see other people in a positive way and to honor people and let them be. Because then you instill a self-confidence within yourself, and you instill a self-confidence within your child, because you're teaching your child, look, every single person in this world has something to contribute. Mommy has something to contribute. Daddy has something to contribute. You have something to contribute. Every single person is special and unique. Let's look at other people. What do other people have that is special? And then we can say, oh, this girl in your class has a beautiful voice. And this girl in your class is very artistic. And this girl in your class is always smiling. And they can start very, very simple. And then as the child matures, it comes into a more mature example. This person is always stepping up to the plate when others are in need. And this person is always there for others when they're going through hard times. And we're able to create a community of positivity that other people will also feel welcome in, and also feel welcome and surrounded by honor when they're in our presence. So Benzoma, just to wrap up this whole entire Mishnah, is redefining wisdom. Wisdom is number one, seeing other people as part of God's creation. And because they're a part of, it's looking at things from a very godly perspective. If this person is in this world, it's because they have something valuable to share. And I want to be open to that. I want to gain from other people. That's wisdom. Strength is overcoming evil inclinations. And the way that we do that is by acknowledging that, yes, we have negative thoughts and negative feelings within ourselves, but we don't have to be victim to them. We can release them. We can let them go. And we want to become a pearl. We want to be somebody who works through our negativity in order to come to a more positive place. And then redefining wealth. Wealth is something that if we focus on other people's wealth, we have never have any time to activate our own wealth and to work on our own success, whether it be in a physical way or in a spatial way. And then honor. Honor is something that we can give to other people by just letting them be and letting them just have what they have in order to shine. And then it allows us to shine as well. So these are all perspective shifts. And these are active things that we need to work on in order to actually be living with them. Because a lot of them are like the way that we think about wisdom, strength, wealth, honor. It's very hard to interrupt a thought process that's been going on for many years. If we define wealth in certain ways for many years, it's very hard to redefine it. But we're able to make an active choice and change our thoughts. Now, our thoughts are just our thoughts. They're not like set in stone unless we decide. We choose our thoughts. Everything is a choice. You can make a choice of how you want a friendship to go. You can make a choice of how you want to think. Often we say, oh, well, it's just a thought, it just came to me, and we could just blame it on our thought process. But you are the one who chooses your thought process. We can redefine the way that we've been seeing things into a more positive way. Now, one thing that I really love about this book, The Gift, is that she talks a lot about redefining our perspective and not being victims to past thoughts, but allowing ourselves to move on so we can step into our real life. And I think that these are 4 categories that hold us back. These are 4 things that we've had like in the past a different perspective on. But when Pirkei Avos comes and shows us that there is a new way of looking at things, there's a more positive way of looking at things, it allows us to step into a new and fresh life. And there are things that we can do to actively work on these. So, for example, wisdom. How can we actively work on becoming more wise people? Let's try an exercise. Sometime this week, when you're in a conversation with somebody, don't look at it as just a conversation. See what is one pearl of knowledge that I can take from this conversation, from this person? What do I admire about this person's perspective? And how can I integrate it into my perspective? An exercise that we can think about for redefining strength is sitting with a feeling that is negative, that we're not proud of, and actively making a choice to say, you know what, I might have fallen to having jealous tendencies in the past, but I don't want to be jealous of this person in this situation anymore. I'm not going to allow myself to keep thinking about it every single time I meet them. I'm going to let myself go. How can we exercise the way that we redefine wealth? We can look at somebody else at that. We often say, you know what, they're so wealthy in this regard. and say, you know what? What can I focus on that I'm wealthy in? I'm wealthy in my health. I'm wealthy in my family. I'm wealthy in all of the things that matter so much. I remember when I was a child, there always comes a point where a lot of children ask the same kind of questions, like depending on their age. So one question that children often will ask their parents, just by noticing other children in the classroom, they'll ask their parents, Mom, are we rich? Or Dad, do we have money? You know, kids always are curious because they notice other kids in the class and they notice that some kids have more than other kids. And kids like to feel secure. So they'll ask their parents, Mom, am I rich? Dad, am I rich? And I remember every time when I was little and I asked my mom that question, my mom would say, yes, we're rich because we have a family of 5 or 6 healthy children. So we're rich. And I remember as a kid being like, that's so cliche, Mom. But at the same time, my mom was not being cliche. She was sending me a real message. This is what I value. This is wealth to me. And to a child, the child is able to translate that and say, oh, my mom doesn't care so much about how much money we have. My mom cares about us. My mom cares about health. And in a sense, we can do that to ourselves. We can ask ourselves, like, Hindy, am I rich? Or just ask yourself, am I rich? And you could say, you know what? I am rich. I'm rich because I'm rich in knowledge. I'm rich in experience. I'm rich in health. I'm rich in so many ways. And on top of that, I'm also rich in wealth. God gave me what I need, the means that I have in order to live a comfortable life. So yes, I am rich. And we can start looking at our life as a unique experience that only we're having and only we're living. And that is so wealthy. And then lastly, the way that we could exercise, the way we honor people is that next time you see somebody that has something positive, in your mind, don't try to take it away from them immediately. Sit in that thought of, wow, what they have is so cool. What they have is so beautiful, and it's theirs. And I'm proud of them, and I'm happy for them. We all know how good it feels to be talking to a good friend who will say to you, wow, I'm so happy for you. Or saying to you, wow, you so deserve that. We know how good it feels. And we want to be that for other people, especially for our children, especially for the next generation. We want to cultivate another generation that supports each other. Because when you support other people, in turn, they will support you. Now, wrapping all of this up, these are all 4 perspectives that allow us to go into a more growth-oriented mindset. They take us out of our narrow, self-oriented mindset and bring us and branch us to making real connections with other people, real, true, lasting connections, and to be people that are working on themselves, growing on themselves. When I was a teenager, I used to be very into this. Every single birthday, I would think, okay, how did I change in this past year? Did I change in integrity? Did I change in maturity? How did I change? And then as I become more of an adult, I realized that I stopped that habit. I stopped having that birthday habit where I say, okay, how do I do that? But last night when I was thinking about this class, I was like, you know what? That would be a really good thing for me to implement again. Thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I had a whole year of life. What is something in my past year of life that I actively changed? We have the power to actively change our perspective. We have the power to actively change our perspective, like in such a powerful way that is so cool. And this mission is inviting us to do that. And in doing that, we're able to make connections with other people. We're able to actually live our life and not be a victim to negative thoughts. Because often negative thoughts are just going to stunt our growth. And we want to grow. And Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers, is taught at a time where in the summer, we focus on Pirkei Avos a lot in the summer from the times of after Pesach until Rosh Hashanah. And a lot of things happen in the summer. One of the things that we are thinking about this week is we're in a time period, according to the Jewish calendar, called the 3 weeks. It was the 3 weeks that led up to the final destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, our rabbis tell us, because people had baseless hatred. People did not live with each other in a cohesive and a beautiful way. People were more for themselves and not for other people. And because the Jewish people lived like that, therefore the temple was destroyed. And we try to rectify this by working on ourselves, by actively working on ourselves and actively making positive connections with other people. So this is a special time to do that. And all of us can find a little exercise within these 4 categories that we are able to work on. And I would love if everyone who wants to share something is able to share an example or an exercise, something that comes to mind when you think about one of these 4 categories. And it is so wonderful to be learning with everyone. Even though we're all so far. I see my mom's on from Israel. I'm teaching from Aruba, and everyone in Florida, wherever you are, it's so nice to be learning all together virtually. So if anyone would like to share any sort of perspective that they have or any thoughts they had in this Mishnah, please feel free to unmute your mics and share. Let's see. Okay.
Hi, you mentioned a lady that wrote a book. I started the shiur a little bit late. Can you repeat her book she wrote?
Hi. What was that again? Sorry.
You mentioned in the beginning of the shiur, I joined a little bit late, and a lady wrote the book. I think you said about the Holocaust.
Yes. So I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Gift.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Edith Eger, and she's a Holocaust survivor. I think she's like 92 or 94. She wrote a book called The Choice that was very popular, and she recently came out with this book, The Gift. And when I was preparing for this class and learning this Mishnah, a lot of the things that she wrote in her book stood out to me as being almost like related or in line with what the Mishnah is talking about. Basically, if I were to sum up all of it in one point, the Mishnah is talking about ways that we could stop our like past negative perspectives, and in a way we're victims to our negative perspective, and we're able to actually and actively walk into our real life by stopping to be a victim. So a lot about what she talks about in this book is she's a therapist, and she uses her experience from the concentration camps in order to teach people in therapy how to actively walk into their life. Because her whole premise, her whole point of her book is that she was living in Auschwitz. She was living in a very, very deep version of hell. But at the same time, she was able to get out of it and make a positive influence, like with other people by becoming a therapist. She was able to actively choose to have a good life. And one of the things that she talks about in her other book, The Choice, is that, and I really like that book because we hear stories of people that survived the Holocaust, and they talk about only their survival in the Holocaust. But then what happens when they came into actual life? Did they carry the Holocaust with them? And in her book, The Choice, she says that she always saw herself as a victim. Because she was a victim of the Nazis, in regular real life, she started to see herself as a victim in other places. And then she had to actively make a choice not to be a victim, but to actually step into her life by having positive thoughts and by having positive feelings and changing her perspective to become more positive and more real. So yeah, that's.
Thank you so much. It was
Of
very
course.
good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. If anyone else has something they would like to add or share, feel free. Okay, so we are going to wrap this up. Everyone have an amazing Shabbat. It was so nice to join everyone today in learning. And God willing, we should grow and really have a lot of self-growth this week. All the best.
Thank you.